Schuster. I am associated faculty member in the philosophy department, and I am the director of Session 1 camp. And I'm so excited to welcome all of you to our final culminating event, our Collaborative Symposium. So there's a few people in the room and a few people not in the room who I would especially like to thank for making this event possible. First and foremost, I want to thank our camp leaders. If you guys could join me in thanking them, they've been awesome. Could not have done it without them. I hope that you have heard lots of fond stories of their fabulous presentations this week. We also had several guest speakers from our faculty, Dr. Sahar Hadari-Bard, who I'd like to thank, Dr. Chris Pincock, Dr. Eden Lin, Dr. Trishna McPherson, Dr. Dana Howard, anybody else? They were fabulous. They gave great presentations. We learned a lot from them, and I'm so grateful that they volunteered their time. There's a few other people that I would like to thank. We have some support that made it possible for us to buy our t-shirts and to be fed today and to get all of our supplies. We were supported in this endeavor by Maureen Allison and Susanna Bell. They were amazing. I'm really not about to be in this room here today if it wasn't for Anand Ekbote. So I wanted to say, Anand was a camp leader last year, but has graduated and gone on and done better things, higher things, but he came back to help us out, and so I wanted to give you a 2024 PACT t-shirt just to compliment her. So I wanted to say a little bit about why we do this collaborative symposium and what a collaborative symposium is all about, and see if I know how to use our pad here. Okay, great. So, does anybody know what a collaborative symposium is? So, collaborative symposium comes from a symposium. Has anybody ever heard of a symposium before? My camp leaders are their heads up. Yeah. So, why are we talking about a collaborative symposium? So, let's see if my slides will agree with me. So, symposium is a Greek word. And it comes from ancient Greece, and it's a word that means a drinking party. Now, that's not what we're going to be doing. So what happened between then and now? Well, one of the things that happened is philosophy, Western philosophy in particular, really started at symposia because they would all get together, and it's like a dinner party. And after they had eaten a lot and drank a little too much and they were a little uncomfortable, they would sit down in these couches, and then philosophers came in to the scene, and they started having after dinner conversations, basically, right? And they started debating some of the biggest questions that we have in life, like what is love? One of the most famous Platonic dialogues is called the Symposium, where they have this deliberation about what is love. And so on some level, we wanted to expose you to the best of philosophy. And one of the things that's really interesting about symposium is, you know, mixing food and drink sometimes doesn't always go well, right? And in fact, there's a lot of things that go into making for a really good conversation. And even back in the ancient world, the ancient philosophers knew that philosophy could go in either of two directions. It could go in a collaborative direction, or it could go, or it could appear to go in a very conflictual direction. And so we wanted to really emphasize a collaborative symposium that's a little bit different than your standard symposium. Because the standard symposium, they would often stand up and they try to best each other, they try to tell the best speech, they try to break each other down. And we think that the best of philosophy is the love of wisdom. It's about building each other up. And this recognition was really actually known by those in the ancient world. So I had this quote actually on my thing in case I couldn't read it. But this is from Plato's Republic. Socrates is talking to a bunch of young people, and he says, I don't suppose that it's escaped your notice that when young people get their first taste of arguments, they misuse it by treating it as a kind of game of contradiction, and they imitate those who refuted them
by in turn refuting others themselves, and like puppies, they drag and tear around those with them with those arguments, right? So this is the way in which philosophy can get a little combative and can just feel like you're just trying to break people down. And so one of the things that we want to talk about is how do we use argument and use a concern about making arguments and asking people to offer arguments and really evaluating those arguments in a way that doesn't break down into puppies tearing each other apart. I think in this particular moment, Socrates is being a little unfair because he's exclusively calling out those young people. Socrates was well aware that actually everybody has this problem. So this is another place in the Republic where he's talking really about people in general, people in his democratic Athens. He says, nor have they, the majority of these people in democratic Athens, nor have they listened sufficiently to fine and free arguments that search out the truth in every way for the sake of knowledge, but keep away from the sophistications and heuristic, I think it's quabbles, that both in public trials and in private gatherings aim at nothing except reputation and refutation. So basically, he wants to say, we're a democracy, but we haven't spent a lot of time just listening to fine and free arguments. And what he means by fine and free arguments are these arguments that are really searching for the truth. And he thinks it's really important for a democracy to function that we be interested in listening to arguments and be interested in figuring out the right answer to these questions, and to do that together. The only way in which we can actually live cooperatively together is if we can actually reason together. And so that's actually a kind of democratic ideal that dates back right to the founding of Western philosophy. And that's what we're thinking about when we're thinking about a collaborative symposium, is we really want to think about trying to find a way to search for truth together. So he says, an older person won't want to take part in such madness, the madness of pulling each other apart and engaging in little quibbles. He'll imitate someone who's willing to engage in discussion in order to look for the truth, rather than someone who plays at contradiction as if a form of art. And so that's what we've asked. You know, they've had a very brief introduction. Some people, this is their first week of philosophy. So we're basically asking them to imitate something that they may never have done before, right? Imitate somebody who's a little bit wiser, who wants to engage in this conversation for the search of truth, rather than being right or being the best or something. And we want to help them. So what we want to do is encourage everyone in this room, even our guests, our honored guests, to engage in this collaboration with us. We want you to feel like you can trust the arguments that are being offered to you, and trust that they're being offered sincerely and that people have thought through them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they've thought through everything, right? So we want to trust each other that when we engage in sort of giving feedback, that's aimed at trying to find out the truth, right? We also think it's really important that everybody's here to participate and that everybody feels like their voice matters. Everybody belongs in this room, and that's the way in which we think actually collaboration can happen. We also want to encourage creativity. You'll see even at the initial outset, we really encourage the campers to kind of try to create a creative way of engaging with these ideas. But we also encourage all of you to engage with that creativity as well. Another thing that's important for collaboration is that everybody collaborate, right? So we want to make sure that we give a space for people to talk. We're going to ask people to keep their contributions relatively brief. We're going to ask people to be aware of other people in the room who might want to get involved, and make sure that everybody has space to contribute. And then finally, I want to say, sometimes we make progress because we've never thought about something before, and we come away from a conversation not convinced of something, but convinced, oh, this is really hard, right? So think about progress not just as like, oh, I've changed my mind, I now have this, the truth that I have received. Progress can also come in like, well, I can think clearly about this one issue, right? Or I can think clearly about this one position on that issue. That doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it. That doesn't necessarily mean that I know what the truth is, but our thought is that you're on the road. You're on the road when you start thinking clearly and subject that to critical scrutiny. Okay, so please, we hope that you will collaborate with us today. I think that is basically what I have to offer you. I'm going to be serving as our MC.
So, let me just stop sharing, because I don't know that every group has a presentation to offer. And I think I'm gonna call up our first group, which is, now I can't remember the title of it. We're gonna do the medical ethics first. Yeah, and so would you introduce the title and the members of this group?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Let me take this one.
Go ahead and take it over.
Yeah, of course. So please, welcome to Medical Ethics Group with with Stuart and with Marshall.
This year is year 2100. An AI in hospital can decide on end-of-life decision. In this presentation, we'll show an example of such situation where someone should make a difficult medical decision.
Okay. Man, it's so great that you won the US Open, man. I'm so proud of you. How do you feel?
I want to be a famous tennis player.
You already are a famous tennis player. That's
Oh,
so,
even more.
congratulations, man. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, no, my uncle, he's down. Somebody call an ambulance, please. He's down. Somebody call an ambulance.
They go to the hospital.
Oh my God, doctor, it's been so hard with my uncle. He's obviously in terrible condition, and I really need your expertise on this situation.
So unfortunately, your uncle, he suffered a stroke.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah,
That's
but-
terrible.
Fortunately, we have our AI technology to help diagnose what's wrong with him and give us some possible solutions.
All right, thank you. I really need something good here, doctor. I really need some good news.
Okay, so we have two possible solutions. First one is, you can either not go forward with the surgery, but you would 100% chance he'd be paralyzed from the waist below.
Oh, no,
Can't walk. Yeah.
no.
And the other option, which is the one our AI is recommending, actually, is go forward with the surgery with, it's a 50-50 survival chance.
Oh, man. Oh, no, man. Oh, that's terrible, dude.
So what are your thoughts?
Oh, I just, like, I don't want to. I don't want him to risk his life just for this surgery. And I feel like he could still live a long and fulfilling life being paralyzed. He could still play tennis in the Paralympics, and he could still be a cherished member of society.
Yeah, no, I completely understand, but fortunately, it's not your decision to make in this situation. Our AI is so advanced that its opinion is as important as your opinion in the situation. And actually, statistics have shown that at predicting the patient preference, it's 81% chance versus someone like you, a family member, who's only 60.
Someone like me? What do you mean by that?
Sorry.
I have this deep personal connection with my uncle. I've known him since I was born, and he's always been such a great role model for me,
I know.
since he's been a pro tennis player.
Yeah, but
And I
unfortunately,
just,
everybody else says that it's only a 62% chance, and I don't think it's your call to rob the world of this amazing tennis talent.
yeah, I still feel like we should do the surgery.
Yeah, and another point that I wouldn't recommend you making the decision is the PTSD involved, in case like you don't want to do the surgery, he comes out and he hates you, he resents you for it, how would that make you feel?
That would make me feel bad, but I think that he would be happy with our decision.
I don't know, 4 out of 5 people in this situation come out with PTSD if when they make the wrong one.
That's terrible. I don't want to experience PTSD.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What should we do here? We'll take a vote?
A vote, we get to deliberate first, or we have to vote?
Vote first and deliberate afterwards. All right, we'll do a close your eyes vote, just so. unbiased. All right, raise your hand if you'd like to do the surgery.
Okay, that definitely sells it, we're doing the
Guess
surgery.
we're doing the surgery.
Okay, so guys, heads is he survives, tails is he dies, alright? No! No, my uncle! I'm so devastated. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, did you mess up the scalpel or something, man? You suck, you suck, man. You killed my uncle. You should be facing time for this. Come on, man. Your lack of skill has caused my uncle, who is such a profound member of the tennis world and our community to perish. And I'm so devastated, man. I'm so devastated.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Rewinding.
Rewinding,
Let's,
next scenario.
yeah, we go back to the vote, and let's say the vote chose, don't do the surgery, right? So, 1 week later, he's awake.
oh, hey, man.
You
Hey,
can
get in the
relax.
wheelchair, get in the wheelchair. All right. How do you feel? How do you feel?
I can't feel my feet.
Oh, I'm sorry, but are you happy you lived?
No, why did you do the surgery? I hate my life.
Oh, no. Oh, no, now I'm suffering from PTSD from this. Oh, my gosh. He's just so upset, and that just affects me emotionally a lot, and I really just should have done the surgery, I should have listened to the AI and the doctor. I'm so sorry.
That's everyone.
Rewind again.
Okay, that's everyone.
Oh my God.
So now we're doing the surgery. Oh, it's a miracle he said.
Yeah, he's back. Tennis, you're gonna be back playing in pro tournaments. We got the Australian Open coming up. I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy for everyone else. Tennis, civilians, it's great, you know?
What's my baseball bat?
Anybody have any, questions, comments, concerns, anything left that?
This was just about like how, you know, AI, like should AI make these decisions?
Or should the surrogate have more power over the AI on the decision making?
Any questions?
I wanted to show how good he is at tennis.
Oh, yeah, let's do your time slip.
Does the patient have the power of attorney?
Oh.
In this hypothetical situation, no, but, probably in the situation in real life, I assume so, yeah.
I have two questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, what was the percentage of like most patients for making wrong decisions? What was that?
For the AI or the,
For the
I can't remember,
family member.
was it 64?
I think it was like, yeah,
63, 64.
Okay, so I have a question on if you did any research or if that person who was undergoing the surgery did like regret it. Like you said, he regretted it a week after, but what about like a year after? Do they still have the same regret wishing that they had taken the risk or like they are satisfied with what they
Yeah, well, it's not my expertise, but and if I was in the situation, I would definitely feel some sort of regret, but I feel like it would have mellowed down a whole lot. Once like a year's passed, I would learn to live with myself after having life, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
One quick thing, one of the challenges I think with medical decision making is a lot of the studies and data is available using men as the subject. And it's changed more recently, there are more studies that are made with women on outcomes. However, there is a bias toward than in data in general for medical outcomes. And how can AI address that if they are only looking at data conclusions from having them as subjects? And is that one of those like garbage in, garbage out kind of scenarios?
Yeah, well, how it would work is the AI would, it would combine all your statistics, you know, height, weight, gender, medical history, religion, you know, all like a ton of different aspects of yourself and make them the most well-informed decision.
So if I,
Yeah, go ahead.
so there, what is being designed right now is called PPP, so Passion Predictive Preferences. And so the idea is that the AIs would have a lot of inputs, a lot of data, everything that Stuart said, but also with social media and internets. And so for now, they're just using like localization or race or gender, and then we say, men in this situation prefer to do those kind of things. And to go back to your question, right now, when we ask the surrogate to take a decision for the patient, the surrogates are right, like 62% of the time, meaning that they are doing what the patient wants to do. And the AI is pretty much at this level right now. So the idea is that with more input, maybe AI would be more predictable and it's a scenario.
Anything else?
Thanks, everyone.
Hi everyone, our skit is about different views about the meaning of life, and I'm extremely pleased to introduce Bhavani, Alexandra, Maya, and Anthony. The elevator breaks down.
I'm going to be late to my operation. While we're stuck in here, what do you guys do?
I'm a babysitter.
155.
I'm a grass hunter.
Gas now? How much gas did you come today?
1,439.
That's such a waste of time. What difference are you making in the world?
Why would I make a difference from having what it is? I'm fulfilled by my job, even though I don't have an impact on the world.
Well, nobody likes their job. What do you do? I'm a brain surgeon. I save lives every day. At least I'm doing something important.
Do you love it?
No, but my job is meaningful and that's all that matters.
So you're saying my job is meaningless?
Yes, because you aren't making an impact the same way I am. Cutting grass is pointless.
There's no point in doing what you're doing, because you don't feel fulfilled. I found my, and so I found yours.
Well, you're not happy and your job is significant, but I have both and I have to be doing something that helps others.
What specifically making you happy?
Oh, definitely money. Money makes the world go around.
Well, that makes a choice.
Well, I get my stomach fixed from the money and my important service from helping the kids.
You sound like you don't care about the kids. Do you care about the kids?
I can take them or leave them.
You have the wrong perspective on what you should care about. There is no relationship between the two aspects of what you fulfillment. The parents think that you have the same passion as them for their child. You only care about how you feel. You don't care enough about your own feelings, and you get fulfillment from the wrong thing.
Why would you risk your life for others? You can do something that isn't putting yourself in danger.
You can have more than 1,000 pieces of gas today, but what can you do with that kind of information? I help people, and I'm happy that I do, even if I'm putting myself in danger.
That only makes you selfish because you're only doing your job because you find it somewhat fulfilling for yourself.
My job is objective and valuable. Doing my job makes me feel satisfied. I feel a sense of accomplishment when I do my job. Don't you feel accomplishment when you save someone's life too?
Not necessarily.
You spend most of your life working. Did you finish all those years of school and all their studying for the job just to feel visible by doing it?
I really value the importance and impact my job has on the world. My feelings don't matter if I'm doing a good thing. My life is meaningful because of what I'm doing for others, not for myself.
Well, I still don't see something wrong with my fulfilling choices. I found something that makes me happy, even though it may not relate in the way that you guys think is right. So, I'm satisfied.
Well, I think everyone has different perspective on the meaning of life. That's okay. As long as it works for you.
Scream! Sorry about that, you can get out.
We represent the full views of the meaningfulness of someone's life.
I represent the fulfillment view. Someone whose view believes life is meaningful if it has value when it's done. It has to be anything as long as they find it fulfilling. Cutting grass makes me feel fulfilled despite the fact that it does not have an impact on the world.
I'm the larger than oneself view. Someone with this view believes that life is meaningful when you accomplish something larger than yourself, such as helping other people or animals. The meaningfulness of your life doesn't depend on you feeling fulfilled. My job doesn't fulfill me, but it is important to help others.
I represent the bipartite view. I am fulfilled in my life both satisfies myself and happens to help other people around me. Someone with this view might say my life is meaningful if I'm fulfilled and I help others. It doesn't matter if the fulfillment comes from doing good. My job fulfills me because I give me happiness from money that I earn, and it's important because I help people.
I represent the pain fulfillment field, and this field suggests that a meaningful life is when I engage in activities that are deeply fulfilling and resonating with your passion, while also having objective value or work to others. My view relates with subjective fulfillment with objective significance.
So now we're gonna do Q&A, and we have two questions that I'm gonna ask you guys, but first I'll, review your memory on Juana and Alexandra's views. So Juana's view focuses on emotional fulfillment instead of objective value, and Alexandra's view focuses on objective value instead of emotional. The first question is, if you had to choose, would you rather live a life where you're fulfilled but not helping, or helping but not fulfilled?
We do like Gloria's hand for like one view and then the other one.
Yeah, curious, which view do you want to take first?
You can go with Juana's first.
So you feel good about what you're doing, but it has no impact on anybody else.
Oh, we voted, sorry.
Yeah, what are you in favor of that view? Or if you had to choose between that or not being fulfilled at all by your job, but having a job that has a lot of impact on other people.
Does anyone want to explain their reasoning?
I feel like if I'm not fulfilled with whatever I'm doing, I'm just really miserable. And I'm my number one person, why would I want to mentor? And, yeah, I just feel like I wouldn't be enjoying life as much as I could be. And, if I'm doing a job that isn't necessarily helping people, if that's something that's important to me, I would do things outside of my work that would provide help.
That makes sense.
I like that.
For me, I like the larger than oneself view, but probably tended to bipartite view, because for me, I can only feel fulfilled if I fulfill others too.
Yeah, I also the same beautiful feeling, helping others. But the research also shows that if you're helping others, you're more likely to feel more happy. And that should have been the research. So I don't see how, I just see a little disconnect here.
I feel like you can't like enjoy yourself, if you're doing something that you feel like at all, you can't really enjoy yourself doing that. But like, I mean, I'm gonna just stay out of everybody's way and have my own time. That's fine by me.
So I think that the happy life can be different from the good life and be different from the meaningful life. So I think that sometimes we want it to be the case that the best of all possible lives is all three, and that's great. But I think that a life can be meaningful, but can be unhappy for that person who's experiencing it, and can also be, maybe not a good life. Or it can be that it's really meaningful, and just morally atrocious, and they might really enjoy that. So they could at least feel subjectively really fulfilled or something like that. So I think these three things come apart. And so then I have to ask myself, well, what's meaningfulness contributing to that? And that's why I get really attracted to the larger than oneself view, because I think in the end, that meaningfulness is really about impact.
Okay, so now I'll remind you guys about my view and Anthony's view. So my view thinks that a meaningful life can be based on objective value or emotional fulfillment, while Anthony's view believes that one should find fulfillment in the morally right aspect. So the question is, do you guys think it matters if you get your fulfillment from something objectively important?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I feel like it's just a lot more convenient, but at the same time, I feel like it's also important to separate like what you enjoy and what you can help others, just so that, you know, you have more to do.
Maybe we can have it open for like any kind of questions they have, if there's time.
So does anyone have any general questions for us?
What would each of you guys choose, like, person? The, I want this Anthony, sitting behind with you, but if like, I can reach that, I think I'd have to film with you. Yeah, sorry, sitting behind, yeah.
I would choose the vegetable. A couple of pet people is what's.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have two more presentations for you. And the next one is going to be from our consciousness group, Nick and Michael. Come up and join me. Welcome to our debate. And today we are going to be talking about whether consciousness matters, and if so, why. We have Nick representing access consciousness and Michael representing effective phenomenal consciousness. We're going to hear from both sides of our panel today, from both sides of the debate, and then we're going to open it up to the audience for further discussion. So let's start with Nick. Can you tell us a little bit about what access consciousness is?
Access consciousness is whether someone is available for reasoning and speaking. For example, someone who's fully awake is access conscious since they're able to communicate effectively. But someone who is asleep is not access conscious because they cannot express their thoughts. Additionally, someone who is technically awake but is suffering from locked-in syndrome is not conscious in the relevant sense since they aren't able to communicate.
All right, thank you, Nick. So now our next question is for Michael. Can you tell us a little bit about what effective phenomenal consciousness is?
Effective phenomenal consciousness is a type of phenomenal consciousness. Phenomenal consciousness is a state where an entity is experiencing an objective world. The concept of effective phenomenal consciousness is when an entity is not only experiencing an objective world, but has a reaction or emotion towards the experience of the world. An example can be made when a person is nervous going onto a roller coaster, but may enjoy the ride or feel nauseous or feel regret.
Michael, given this preferred view of consciousness, how can you tell if somebody is phenomenally conscious in this particular effective or particular evaluative way? So Nick has told us that if somebody's asleep or if they're in the locked-in syndrome, we know that they are not conscious, but how do we know if someone is conscious or is not conscious on your account?
Thing is, technically, you can't tell for certain if someone is effectively phenomenally conscious because there's no real way for someone to see what or really how someone is thinking. I think even with this, a true definition of consciousness is what happens. Not only if an entity is available for reasoning, but if it can experience something, have reaction to something, have an emotion with it. I'm not saying that being able to reason is not a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition.
So a question for both of our panelists. Why does consciousness matter on your account? Why should we care about consciousness at all? Or when should we care? So maybe Nick, can you go first?
Well, a society where no one has access to consciousness would not work because collaboration, reason, and communication. If someone wanted to build a house, they would need to be able to tell their other people to get the materials and figure out the most stable way to build it. So access consciousness matters because it is integral to human society.
Personally, I think that effective phenomenal consciousness is important because society is built around the assumption that people are effectively phenomenally conscious. Effective phenomenal conscious it can also be important in evidence. Like, suppose you find out a friend of yours has never actually had effective phenomenal consciousness, And the whole time you knew them, they've just been talking with you without even comprehending anything you have said or even what they have said. Even though technically nothing has really changed, they can still exchange words with you. So would it really be the same?
Nick, what do you think of this view that Michael's been offering us? What do you think it gets wrong, or why is it not convincing to you?
Well, I mean, if no one can tell if something is effectively phenomenally conscious, that doesn't really matter in actual society. It doesn't matter, essentially, there's no difference between someone who is or isn't effectively phenomenally conscious from the outside world.
Michael, how would you respond to those concerns?
I can see, Nick, that there's no way to tell if something or someone is effectively phenomenally conscious. We should not, so we should not worry too much about finding out if someone is or isn't. However, even if effective phenomenal consciousness is not technically useful in the sense of talking with someone, it can still be useful in the sense of philosophy and finding what it means to be conscious.
So, Michael, what do you make of Nick's idea of consciousness? Why don't you find it convincing?
I think that the issue with access consciousness is that an entity could reason, but not truly comprehend what it's saying, and could just be answering from a pre-programmed output. So imagine someone in the room who does not know any Chinese. But in the room is a gigantic book with all Chinese characters in it, and the characters that you would use to respond to each other, to each character. It is not a dictionary with a translated definition. It's just from one set of characters, this is what you respond with. The person then receives messages in Chinese and encodes them using the book, and then replies to the message as the book depicts. So the person seems to be able to communicate in Chinese without truly understanding or being conscious of it. Access consciousness holds that this person is conscious because they're available for reasoning.
Nick, what do you think of these concerns?
Your room analogy falls apart when you think about it in the context of a brain. If you use that analogy to describe the human mind, who is meant to be the hypothetical person in charge of that brain? Maybe the person inside of the room isn't conscious, but that person in combination with the room is conscious. In the end, it would appear that the total structure is much more important than a simple machine itself. If the pre-programmed output is the same either way, then it doesn't really matter what it feels like to be able to speak Chinese. Society doesn't lose anything by having someone being or not being effectively phenomenally conscious. After all, the house can still be built whether or not someone feels happy after building it.
So I wanted to give an opportunity for our panelists to give us one last thought. Michael, did you want to say anything more?
I'm happy with what I've said. Like, while technically whether something is effectively phenomenally conscious does not really matter in terms of society, it still matters in terms of philosophy and ethics.
Even though effective phenomenal consciousness is hypothetically important, the real world is impacted significantly more by access consciousness because of its necessity to a functioning society.
And so we wanted to open it up to you. What do you think? Which view seems more plausible to you, or what questions that you have? Dave?
Okay, so, like, representing the access side, or asking a question to somebody who's representing that side, I'm wondering how you respond to this thought that, like, phenomenal consciousness, even to the level of, like, standing in society, we should care about phenomenal consciousness, because it kind of tells, like, who or what we should take into account. So, for example, there are debates about, like, whether shrimp are conscious and maybe experience some suffering and so on, and the implications might be that, like, we need to change the conditions of shrimp farms, or we need to, like, abolish shrimp farms and so on. That's kind of a hard question, but it's fair if you don't have it worked out view. I wanted to take a thought about that.
So I guess my question in response to that is like, how would you figure out if shrimp are conscious? Because I guess the assumption with humans is that humans are conscious, which may or may not be true, but like. Based on what we can tell, humans are more likely to be conscious than shrimp. So you're already basing off the assumption that humans are conscious. I guess the thought that humans are conscious is assumed, and there's no way of really knowing whether someone is effectively phenomenally conscious.
I don't know what a second on that at all.
No, not really, I think, I mean, yeah, like, again, it's true that there's no way of knowing, but that doesn't mean it's not important.
Well, I mean, it's not important, is not the same as like, we shouldn't care about it. It's not important to us. Like, we should care if we were to figure out a way, but we simply can't, and we kind of have to accept that.
Lou? Yeah, do you think AI could have one of the other forms of consciousness?
I think it has the same capacity for consciousness as a human could, so it might or might not be, like effectively phenomenally conscious, just like a human might or might not be. And it could also, it might or might not be like, access conscious.
Yeah, I feel like AI can, if there's, again, really no way of telling, it's definitely access conscious, because you can reason with it and talk with it. But there's no way, like, you, as of now, present AI doesn't seem to be conscious. Like, in, effective phenomenal, because it, like, it doesn't have emotion, but could, future AI have it? There's no way of really telling.
Yeah, just following up on, Juan's question, supposing that, some AI, past, present, or future, could be some kind of conscious, you know, access phenomenal or affective phenomenal. Would those have any ethical ramifications for, how we should be, treating them or more broadly just engaging?
Sure, I think, like, are you talking about like ethically, how we should treat AI if they are effectively phenomenal?
Ethically for any, or if you want to take it all, agree.
Yeah, if they are, effectively phenomenal or even phenomenal, I would say that, we should probably give them, at least some rights. But, I mean, if we, like, somehow, like, I mean, we wouldn't be able to know if they're, like, like, effective phenomenal, but, like, if we find out that they're phenomenal or somewhat, like, if they seem to at least be effective, phenomenal, then we could, then we should, like, kind of make, we could make a, like, a justice system, but for AI specifically. So we can give them rights, but if they choose to, like, break those, like, if they choose to break a law, then we can remove the.
I would say that like an AI should be held to the same standards as a human in terms of like, you know, you have laws and everything, but also humans are assumed to be conscious from birth. If humans like access conscious, if a human can communicate with the outside world, that person is assumed to be effectively phenomenally conscious. And we should either make it so that we treat humans like we would treat AI, which doesn't seem that great, to assume that they're not conscious, or we should treat AIs like we would treat humans to assume that they are conscious.
I mean, I think you make a really good point about what happens like at birth. My sense is that one of the reasons why we have like the legal concept of being a minority, like being underage, is that we don't think that people's reasoning capacities are like developed or sufficiently developed, I should say. developed enough to be held responsible for their decisions.
Maybe, I guess, a
So
solution,
maybe something similar
yeah,
could be true of AI.
like an AI at its current state is less powerful than humans are.
Yeah.
They're less like intelligent. So, I mean, you could hold an AI to the same standards as like a 12-year-old.
Mhm. Until we have, and I mean, I think one of the things that's interesting is like, you know, clearly probably 18 is too late, like we think, like people, you know, it's not like there's something magic that happens to people at 18 or at 21 or something, or at 16, and you, I think I think most of the states, in the United States allow you to drive at 16, right? But it's not that there's something magical that happens at that age, but there's some vagueness that's going on there. But at a certain point, we're like, okay, well, now we're gonna start treating you as having this full access option. And you wanna have a similar kind of plan for AI. Any other questions that people might have? Thank you so much to Nick and Michael.
Thank you for coming out, everybody. Our group is going to be talking about whether or not AI can make art. So, if you would, please join me in welcoming Anika, Kiori, Raina, and Roxy.
Yeah, so our question is it art? And today we're going to talk about 3 different types of art, and we're going to weigh whether AI or human art is art, either of those statements. So the first thing that we want to do is that we want to figure out how people can differentiate from real people, real like human art, and then AI art. So can you go to the next slide?
Yes.
So these are 2 pictures, and we want you to tell us, so if you think it's the left, I'm gonna have 4 options. I'm gonna say left, only just the left is AI, right? Like, okay. If you think just the left is AI, raise your hand, just the right, like, raise your hand, both or neither. Okay, if you think just the left is AI, raise your hand. Okay, if you think just the right side is AI. Okay, both. Okay, neither. Yeah, it was both. I know. Okay, next one. Okay, this one's kind of harder. So left, just the left. Okay, just the right. Both. Neither. Okay, actually, this one was the
Oh, I got it.
okay. Wait, yeah, this one's it. Okay, next. Okay, this one's supposed to be like Bob Ross painting, so just the left, just the right, both, neither. This one was the AI. So, yeah, so going into what we want to talk about, AI art is digital art derived from programmed data sets and training data, allowing AI to create new art. The controversy around AI art is the idea of whether its work is original or not, and it's pretty debatable. It's really controversial nowadays. In fact, some people question if AI art is even real. So since AI is trained based on databases programmed by humans, it's impossible for AI art to kind of be original and from its own self-entity. And so this raises concerns of theft as problems surrounding unauthorized and unmonetized usage of art pieces and training data led to unrest. So the images that we showed, all the AI ones, they are comprised entirely of other photographs and art pieces, and AI basically matches them up based on however it's programmed and makes new art. And now through the 3 different types of art theories we're going to talk about, which are formalism, emotivism, and institutional theory of art. We're going to look at AI art and real human art, and we're going to see if AI art can be considered art under those theories. So we're going to start with formalism.
So formalism is one of 3 different ways people categorize what art is and what is not. So instead of focusing on the content or the context of the photo or whatever it is, it focuses on the composition, like the colors, lines, textures and other things to determine whether it's art or not. Next slide. So this first image, it's like an actual painting from a human, and you can see that there's, not really, but you can see that there's two faces and two instruments in it, but that is not what makes it art in this context. It's about the colors, like you could see green, red, and other colors, and the lines are what makes it look like a base, which is what makes it art. Next slide. And this one is an abstract art made by AI. And obviously abstract art doesn't resemble object, so it's only the structures like the lines, as you can see, and the colors in it. And so by definition, formalism, like this is art by formalism. But this is a little controversial because people don't think that that is the right way to determine whether something is art. And so the question is something classified as art because of how it looks or the process behind it? And that leads to emotivism.
So emotivism is one of the three theories in this presentation that specifically values the emotional meaning of the art. It is a believer theory that the meaning of the art is rooted in the emotion that was put into it while making the piece, like how the artist felt while painting it. And it's also the perspective that sees art not just as a static object to be admired, but as a dynamic experience to be felt deeply. The beauty of emotivism is that it lets us contemplate and experience the art emotionally, and it reminds us that art is not just an intellectual exercise, but a deeply human act. The question that is under this definition is that under this definition is AI art considered art? Many would say no, because AI currently does not have emotions, so it wouldn't be able to put emotion into its art. But you could argue that the person like typing out the description of saying, oh, can you please create a emotional image, could put the emotion into the art that is generated, but that is left up to interpretation. Next. So this is a painting done by Pablo Picasso. In 1937, when there were bombings in northern Spain, as you can see, there was a lot of emotion in this piece, the chaos, and the faces look very disturbed, and it basically is how we felt during the time of the chaos of the bombings. This one, this one is AI generated when someone asked AI to put emotion into this art piece. So the balloons are and that's how AI perceives emotion. So this leads us to the question now, under this definition the definition of emotivism is AI art considered art?
So do you guys think that this would be art under emotivism? Like, do you think that AI had feelings while we were making this? Yeah, no. What about
I don't think the AI had feelings. I feel like the person who probably like inputted it used their emotion.
Yeah.
Maybe the way the input was described.
Yeah.
I guess, how are you defining art?
So these three different theories that we're talking about, they are different ways to define art and what we consider art. So for this one, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, this one is specifically that the artist put emotion into his work. So yeah, that's what emotivism is when an artist puts emotion into its art, then it would be considered art. So under this definition, what do you guys think?
So, based off of that definition, they're also saying that if this artist did not put emotion into what they created, it therefore is not art.
Right, so like some modern art where it's just like a blank piece of paper, some people be like under emotivism, it wouldn't be real art, but then in the other theories, we're gonna show like it would be. So I guess.
Unless you're talking to the person who created it.
Right, exactly, and I guess that's why at art museums, they have that plaque that explains like where they're from, what year, that's why we explained the last one, kind of where it was from and stuff, but
Yeah.
I guess the general consensus, even though it isn't.
Well, I mean, I also heard that somebody said part of the artist is the person who is putting the prompt in, right? That your point, yeah, so you might not think of the AI as the only artist, but that it's a collaborative joint.
So I guess, what do you guys think is more important, the AI or the person? Who do you think would weigh more? Who do you think has more of an impact making? The person, right? Who else?
AI.
Mhm. Okay, so going on to does the artist's intention or how you interpret the art matter more? Institutionalism, institutionalism is basically art that the art world agrees is art. The art world is like an ecosystem of artists, galleries, museums, and people just appreciate art in general, that critique, display, all that stuff for art. They basically it's if somebody could put up art and say, is it art, like put it up for the art world to decide, like they can confer, and basically the art world would have to decide, like, is it art or not. So with this theory, it would really depend if art would be considered art. This painting was made by Nick Wyatt. He made this, and the art world, he put this up, and the art world decided it was art. So now this painting is worth around $10,000. You want to know the art world? Would you consider this AI painting in the next slide to be real art? Okay, so if you guys are now deciding, is this art or not? And this is by AI, so just keep that in mind, like your personal opinion and stuff. Who would say this is art? Raise your hand. Okay, who is kind of like, okay, who would say no, it's not art? Okay, oh, you would say no, it's not art. Can you tell us why you would say it's not art?
I just think that AI at this point of development, it's not, they say that it will be at some point, but not yet. It's basically generating all of the knowledge that it got from the internet.
Right.
And copyrighted works.
Yeah.
There are so many lawsuits right now. So that's why I think this is just a degenerative work from something that was already created by actual people. So that's why I cannot consider it art. But if I wouldn't have known, I probably wouldn't. If you would have told me this is a human being, then I probably would say just from the point of view of a librarian, because we're all about copyright.
Yeah. That's exact, I agree with you personally. I feel like as soon as I hear that it's made by AI, I value it way less. Does anybody else feel
Yes.
that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
When it's a person actually doing it and the
Right.
emotion behind it,
Right.
you know, it's not a computer generated, it's not.
I feel like either way is still art, but just, you know, it's AI, there's not a lot of effort, as much effort put into it, it's like the value stuff.
That's a really good point, yeah. So the people who are kind of like, I don't really know if this is art or not, what would convince you either way? Like, what would you even know? So, good. Yeah.
I think like whatever prompt the human put into the AI to give, because in my opinion, it's more about emotion, so.
Yeah.
If they put like emotion and describing what it is, it would make.
Okay, yeah.
I want to meet the person behind the AI art.
The person behind
And have a
the
discussion,
The person behind the prompt or
behind, who's doing, yes,
Uh-huh.
yes,
Yes.
I just didn't know if you also wanted to meet the developers of the algorithm.
Oh, that's a good point, I wasn't thinking of that. Yes.
So what do you think might have been the prompt behind this painting?
Well, we know the actual prompt behind this painting, so it's kind of hard to imagine outside of that. But does anybody have a clever prompt that you think of? Yeah.
I think like a white box with colors.
Yeah, because whenever you're generating art, you can literally put whatever you want, and it'll just make whatever. Honestly, I feel like I would value it most if there was some sort of emotional prompt. So if there was something like, I don't know, I honestly don't know, but if you guys wanna know what we actually put, what did, I did improvements, the AP needed to represent one of the three theories of art, so. Yeah, and it's really hard. I remember, so formalism, the first one we showed, it's all about lines and stuff, right? But whenever I put in the prompt, it put like this super AI generated looking image of a guy in a suit, and I'm like, okay, I don't really think that's formalism. But, yeah, so the people who said, yes, this is art, why do you think it's art? Yeah, you already explained it, yeah. But does anybody else? Yeah.
In a way, I kind of want to recognize the work of like creating AIs and how hard it is to communicate the process that we humans have, because when we create art, we are nourished by a lot of art that we have seen, like all the experiences around us, by the people around us. And in a way, AI, by taking all of this data, is mitigating this process. I kind of want to recognize this work in a way and how it is.
Yeah, I personally struggle with that a lot because I really strongly always want to say I don't think AI art is real art, but I feel like the fact that I'm kind of like, well, yeah, it really is art, but I agree, I want to recognize what those people feel, so. But, yeah, so I guess is the consensus, yes, you would consider that piece of art as the art world? Yeah, would you value that as high as the other art that's like $10,000?
No.
Do you think it would get less valuable if you found out it was high, like money wise, or would you think it would get more valuable? In terms of money, not what you think.
I think less, I just think people, someone actually doing something, a person actually doing something is gonna cost more. Takes account like a different.
So the first one, like the blue painting, was kind of an elementary where when I see it, I'm like wondering like, oh, is it the ocean? I'm trying to figure out what this person was thinking. And this might be unfair, but like for me, like the immediate emotional reaction, if I learned it was AI, is like, oh, it's just kind of like organizing some colors or ingredients, and it kind of underlines that they're trying.
That makes a lot.
Do people actually sell, artificial intelligence right now?
I
Do people
saw
actually
that.
buy?
Yes, I saw people are selling it for a lot.
Like an Etsy store or what are we talking?
Yes, I saw it.
Well, not just Etsy, there are now digital collage artists who are incorporating AI into their process. And it's selling for, you know, the very high prices that they find like art museum. All that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a way in which you cook the books because you're looking at entirely visual images. And there's a sense in which like the art that we've created is in part like flowing out of the kind of creatures that we are. And I wonder whether, like on a purely formalistic thought, whether AI could generate a new form of art. Like some weird cybernetic, like, you know, like connection between the biological and the digital, and some art experience or some art that comes out of a new form.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, but like that would be the thing of it. We feel then less derivative, right? Because like a lot of the concerns that we have is that it's like super derivative, which doesn't make it not art, it just makes it bad art or something. But like, but like maybe there's like great art to be had with AI because it can generate an entirely new form.
Yeah, and I don't think it's there yet because they don't have their own emotion yet. So there is nothing that they can add other than what humans have already added. And so I guess most people value emotivism, which is what the person felt whenever they were making the art. But if any of you guys remember the art forms, does anybody, okay, who likes formalism? Do you remember it? That was the one. Would you recognize art as art if it had shapes and different colors? No. Yeah. Raise your hand. Okay. What about emotivism? Would it's something emotion? Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. And institutional theory.
Between the two.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all, yeah.
It's kind of also important to say that formalism also includes perhaps the lack of objects. So like, if someone were to have a blank canvas, that would be art under formalism, because there's a lack of color.
Yeah. That was a good point. Because then in your head, you wouldn't consider it art, because there's like nothing there, but on formalism, there's art. Yeah.
I was gonna say AI could be, I mean, just essentially like years from now, could you look at it just, and it is starting to look at just the different forms, like a different medium. Art, too. Like, you know, just like painting, like, or you just be like AI.
Yeah.
So I have two questions. Did you guys ever delve into like literature as art and how AI impacts that and like music as well?
Whenever we were learning about it, literature. Basically, all the theories here could apply to that, and the fact that AI has to take from things humans already made also applies to that, but, I feel like everything kind of speaks for everything, in music and literature, but I wish we could have gone through that one.
And then my second question is, if AI creates art, like the one where you guys put in the swatches of and stuff, and then a human recreates it, what is that, like that plagiarism? And if it's so, if it is, how do you like track that? Because then if you're like arguing, oh, you can argue that the person who put in the prompt is part of the artist.
Yeah.
And they just physically, took the time to like make that art that technically the AI created.
Yeah.
What about that?
That's like a really good argument that I would use against people who say that AI art is valid because the person puts in the prompt makes it valid. And so I feel like you're right at that point. There's this whole issue where who do we blame, the AI or the person? I personally think you blame the person because you're plagiarizing. You're not plagiarizing the AI because the AI never owned that work, but the original artist, I feel like this makes plagiarism really easy. So that's good. Yeah.
Would, MI, like mixed intelligence be classified as art?
Mixed
image?
intelligence?
It's, kind of like the hypothetical, of like, if we mix AI and humanity and combine the two. If a mixed intelligence program did it, would you think of it, would it be art or, yeah?
Because then you're using it, we've talked about this a lot, then you're using it as a tool. I mean, the humans are using it as a tool instead of, it entirely being credited to the AI.
Are you talking about like the gradual uploading cases where like half the brain is silicone or?
I mean, it's a separate kind of, idea than, artificial intelligence. It's like some people don't think we should just stop artificial intelligence altogether, but people think that we shouldn't do artificial intelligence either, we should like do the middle, where we like kind of, yeah, like it's partly related, but like it's kind of a separate idea, like you kind of make half of yourself artificial intelligence,
Yeah,
and you
like
kind of keep
cyborg.
half, it kind of, yeah, cyborg
Yeah.
kind of thing. But, yeah,
So wait, I wanna ask you all again, so we have like, let's just assume there's some dystopian future in which there are cyborgs about. So it's a partial biological animal and partially silicon. But the biology can't live without the silicon, right? We're doing it essentially.
I would assume that there's different ideas about it, cause
Yeah, let's just stipulate fully interdependent, I just wanna make sure, so we'll say stipulate is fully interdependent, right? The biological system can't exist without the silicon system doesn't get electricity or something without the biology.
Yes.
Does that person, as far as you wanna go with me on calling this cyborg a person, is that person?
I mean, I don't know, I think that like, if they're picking up the paintbrush and painting it and putting in the hours and the work, I guess it's okay if they take inspiration from that art. And, you know, as long as you put in the work and it's not just generating, doesn't just pop up, then I would consider it art. Yeah. Would you guys think, okay, in that scenario where we were like, would you make AI art cost more than human art? Would you make mixed intelligence art? Or can you go back to that conclusion?
Yeah, which one?
The next slide.
Here.
The next slide, sorry. Okay, if this was not made by an AI or a human, and I was considered a human, it's like here, and then AI is valued less like here. Would you value mixed intelligence art more or less than
More,
more?
because they're still human.
Mhm.
A human like that.
And it's cool that it's like that.
Yeah, if you wanna go that direction, yeah.
Same amount, just because they're very similar.
Yeah.
One of, I'm reading a book right now, one of my main characters is a cyborg. And I guess based off of that, I would probably, rate it higher, because if we're in this so-called futuristic realm, probably gonna be a cyborg for like some tragic accident that happened, meaning that there wouldn't be that many cyborgs. And then that many cyborgs who do art, that's already going to be like really small.
Yeah.
That is unique in itself, because, you know, they're using maybe their AI system, or they could be using aspects of their life too. And I think that's something that has to be taken into account, so I would probably bring it high up just because of the uniqueness of the situation.
Yeah. I would like that. Okay, yeah, does anybody have any questions?
Your opinions.
Okay, yeah. Okay. For this or just like in general?
On the cyborg?
Yeah.
On the cyborg.
Oh, yeah, I could see it being more expensive. Yeah, it's just like, kind of cool.
Yeah. I would find it more expensive because it's like more unique.
You know, like,
You're not gonna see that every day.
I think it depends on how common it is for people to do a cut and cut. Because if we're like thinking in the future, there's probably more common. Like if there were one person that could do this right now, it'd be way more expensive. Yeah, I think it depends on like what the situation and what the work looks like.
The rarity of it.
Yeah. I think that's all we have.
Okay, cool. So let me just close it out. So, you know, one of the reasons why we really like doing this camp is because Ohio State's motto is education for citizenship. And we really think there's a tight connection between philosophy and being a democratic citizen, being a member of a democratic polity where we're trying to reason through the benefits and burdens of cooperative living together. So we were excited to be able to share this love with all of your campers and with all of you, and we hope that we've convinced you. I'm so grateful that you are all here this week. I hope to see you in 2 weeks, or next summer. Please stay in touch. Let us know where you decide to take all of these ideas. So thank you so much.
Thank you.